Hey everybody, Terry White here. Every now and then, a product comes along that changes the game. And this time for me, it's the new Elgato Prompter. As a presenter, creator, and person who does online meetings and live streams on a regular basis, a teleprompter is a very useful piece of gear for me. I've been using teleprompters for years, so this is not a new concept. However, basically all the teleprompters I've used over the years have been devices that can mirror the display of an iPad or phone that you sit on top of it and allow my camera to see through it. I wrote my scripts or notes and then loaded them into the teleprompter app. Usually these devices come with a wireless Bluetooth remote so that you can advance the script without looking. Now, again, like I said, not a new concept. What makes the teleprompter or what makes the Elgato Prompter different, or really what sets it apart, is that it has a built-in display that allows you to not only see your script, but also any window on your Mac or PC that you drag over to it. This means that it does all the basic functions of a teleprompter when it's in that mode for people that need to see their scripts and notes in front of them so they can make eye contact, but it also acts like an extended display or monitor that you can drag your online meeting window onto so that you can make eye contact with the people in the meeting. So a lot of meetings, we see people doing this. We see them looking down, we see them looking off to the side because the camera's here and that's where their meeting monitor is, or that's where their window is. Now in the past, I've had, like there's a TV behind my screen, right behind my camera right now, and running Apple TV, and I would mirror the meeting over to that Apple TV so that I could at least be looking in the camera and kind of past it to see the meeting. The camera's blocking part of the meeting, so I can't really see what's in the middle. So this is kind of a problem I've had in the past, and this is why I'm so happy about this product. Now, you're making eye contact with the people in the meeting. They'll never know you're using the Elgato Prompter as all they see is your regular camera image. The other thing that will be a game changer for me is that when I'm doing live streams, I can drag the chat window onto the display so that as I read and respond to your questions in the chat, I'm looking directly at my audience. Again, without having to look to the side, looking down at wherever the chat window is. This is definitely not the first teleprompter with a display built in. However, as far as I can tell, it is the first one under $300. So it's clear that Elgato put a lot of thought into the hardware and how you would use it. First, it connects to your computer via a single USB-C to USB-A cable. I'll get to that in a second. With the USB-A being on the computer side, unfortunately. This one high-speed cable provides power and data, so there's no power brick. There's no need to find a wall outlet to plug it into the wall to power it, and that's great. Yay, they did the right thing there by just making it be powered over USB. This cable is important, and they recommend, and here I have it here, they recommend only using their cable. Now their cable, if I can grab it here, their cable is about a 6-foot cable. I'm not going to show you the whole length, but 6 foot. So it's USB-C, USB-A. So USB-A goes in the computer, USB-C angled on the back of the teleprompter. As you can see, I'm not using this cable. And again, we'll get to that in a second. So again, the cable is important, and they recommend using their cable. And like I said, this is my first gripe with the product. My computer doesn't have any USB-A ports on it. It only has USB-C and Thunderbolt ports on it, which are USB-C styled. This means I would either need to use a USB-C to USB-C cable or an adapter or plug it into a hub or dock. Now, initially when I set it up, luckily I do have a Thunderbolt dock that does have USB-A ports on it. So I was able to just plug it right in and just use it as I was supposed to, even though you're not supposed to plug it into a hub or dock. Therefore, I was able to connect it without any issue. I did test my own high-speed USB-C to USB-C cable to see if it would work, and it did. It's the one I'm using right now, so it's the one it's plugged into. I'll link to that cable in the description so you know which one to get if you're going to swap the cable out for a better one or one that's USB-C to USB-C that's fast enough data, fast enough power. If if they want you to use their cable, then they either should have supplied a USB-C to USB-C cable and USB-C to USB-A, or some kind of adapter that adapts USB-A down to USB-C. So either way, Elgato, you got to fix this because most people with newer computers won't have a USB-A port available to use. As I said, though, they really did think about the hardware and how you would position your camera with it. Every teleprompter I've used in the past required you to mount your camera on a platform behind the prompter, behind the screen, behind the mirror. And usually they are designed for DSLR and mirrorless cameras, and some come with and those lenses, and most do come with a smartphone mount. Now, the Elgato Prompter, on the other hand, can be attached directly to your lens. So I use and by the way, to me, this is the easiest and cleanest method. So I use a Sony EV10 mirrorless camera for recording my content and for doing my live streams. I've attached a Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens directly to that camera, and what they give you is so this particular lens doesn't zoom. It's a fixed prime lens, and they give you it has a 67mm ring on the front of it. Now, Elgato provides a series of step-up rings that you can use depending on your lens. So they provided all the common sizes, and I ended up using the 67mm. At first, I thought it was the 62mm, but I was wrong. And so the 62mm is right here. This is what it looks like. So if this were the right one, you would just screw this onto the front. This one's too small because it should be 67. And then the Elgato Prompter slides right onto the ring. So you might say, well, doesn't that weigh this down? Isn't that too heavy for your lens? Won't it bend something? And no, because two things. Number one, the prompter is extremely light. So it's lightweight, it's not heavy. Most lenses should be fine. And of course, as long as your tripod is steady enough to hold both your camera, your lens, and the prompter, you should be fine. And mine was. I didn't have to change anything. Now, this gives you the perfect fit, and there's no concern of light leak because it's literally sitting right on it. Now, if you are using a camera with a zoom lens, so the lens that comes with that, the Sony ZV-E10, actually zooms in and out, the default lens they give you. So that wouldn't work because even if you could put a ring on it, the prompter can't be moving backwards and forwards. So they give you a platform, to a traditional style platform that you would put your camera, you would mount your camera here, and they give you a looks like quarter 20 to mount your camera on, and slide your camera forward or backward to get it close to the actual prompter, like most prompters. So instead of you mounting the prompter on your lens, you would mount it on this platform. The platform then goes a more traditional fashion. And the Elgato Prompter would be attached to your tripod instead. Then you would use either the universal plate and hood. Let's see, I've got one here. You would use the universal plate and hood that they include. So this is kind of that shroud that goes over it like this and slides down in the prompter and your camera shows through there. Or if you are using the Elgato face cam, then you could use the face cam mount, and your face cam goes in and this slides right in front of the prompter and screws on, and you got a great perfect seal with your Elgato Prompter. Now, they included everything I needed to mount my various cameras and webcams, but I don't think it came with a smartphone mount. I don't think it came with one that holds your phone. If you are going to use a phone, then you're going to need to provide your own mount that goes on that quarter 20. Now, they did a great job with the hardware. Now let's move on to the software and what could be better. The Elgato Prompter uses the Camera Hub app from Elgato. Once you're ready to go and you've installed all the hardware, you download and install this app on your Mac or PC. I installed it on the latest version of macOS Sonoma, without incident. Camera Hub also installs a driver called Display Link. And the beauty of this driver is this driver allows the Mac to see the prompter as another display without actually counting it as another monitor. This bit of sorcery was very important to me, and it was one of my initial concerns because some MacBooks, especially the early ones, the earlier Apple Silicon M1s, couldn't support multiple external displays, or they could only support one external display. So if you're already using one like I am, I'm already using an external display, then I was concerned that I didn't want to exceed the maximum number of monitors that you can have on an Apple Silicon MacBook, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro. The fact that it just works and doesn't count as another monitor, but acts like another monitor, was the icing on the cake. It shows up in my system settings under displays, just like any other monitor. You can arrange it, you can do whatever you want with it. And in display mode, you can treat it just like any other Mac display and drag your notes or Zoom meeting, Teams meeting, WebEx meeting, FaceTime windows directly to it for that all-important direct eye-to-eye contact. Now, I wish that I could report that everything on the software side went as smoothly as the hardware side, but it didn't. I have a couple of friends that got theirs before I got mine. And they told me that there was some software issue, but didn't really go into details. And I guess they worked it out. Once I got mine all set up and installed it, it showed up immediately. Like I see my Mac desktop on it, and I figure, hey, I'm one of the lucky ones. It worked for me, and I didn't have to do anything. It just worked out of the box. I used it for a couple of meetings, and it was great having my meeting window right in front of me, in front of the camera. Then I finally wanted to test the teleprompting side of things, and the main purpose of the device. And that's when I learned it wasn't actually working as advertised. Not only was it not working, but I really had no idea how it was supposed to work. With the Camera Hub up and running, the app had a sample script in it. Pressing play started scrolling it on my Mac monitor, but nothing was happening on the prompter display. And I'm like, am I supposed to do something else? Or I didn't know if I was supposed to drag the Camera Hub window onto the Mac display in the prompter. And while you could do that, that's not the way it's supposed to work, because there are settings for font size, color, margins, etc. And none of those settings were having any impact on what I was seeing. So I went to Elgato support site expecting to find instructions. I gave up. I just said, let me go read the manual and some step-by-step guides, or even see a video. And to my surprise and dismay, and I still can't believe this, there was nothing, not a single piece of info, FAQ, or anything on how Camera Hub was supposed to work with Prompter as an actual prompter. It was too early in the day for me to call support. So I figured I'd have to turn to Google and YouTube and try and figure it out. And I could find all kinds of videos of people showing it working, but no one actually showed how they got it to work. I guess I'll be that guy that shows you. I didn't see that you don't drag your camera. I did see that you don't drag your Camera Hub window onto the prompter's display. There are actually 3 modes in Camera Hub. There's text, which is prompting. That's what we want. There's display, which is just treating it like a monitor. You can drag any window onto it. And there's chat, which is actually dedicated for Twitch. Now, I said I use it for live streaming, but I use other platforms, and I just drag that chat window using display. But if you're using Twitch, there's an integration directly for it. So under text, you should be able to see your script right in the prompter without you having to drag any windows or do anything. And also, you should be able to choose your point sizes and fonts and colors. And that was not happening for me. I went back to the display link menu and fiddled with those settings. And here's a screenshot of what I ended up with. But I think what the key was, there's a toggle to turn the display off in display link and turn it back on. And I quit Camera Hub and relaunched it after toggling it. And then I finally saw my script in text mode on the prompter the way it was supposed to, in the right font size, color, and all that. Finally, text was displaying my sample script. Clicking on display switched it back to a regular display that I can drag windows onto. And of course, chat is specifically for Twitch, so I didn't even mess with that, since I don't stream to Twitch exclusively. So therefore, that won't really matter for me. I'll primarily use text and display. Twitch is great, but I just don't stream there only. So therefore, that window doesn't mean anything. Although I'll likely stick to white text on a black background with a fairly large point size, I do like the fact that you can also bring in the margins a bit. This means less moving your eyes left and right and less like you're reading the script to your viewers. I do like that you can separate your script into blocks right in the Camera Hub app. You can write your script right in the app if you want to, or do what I did. I wrote it in Grammarly or your favorite word processor or text editor. And then once you're done, you can just copy and paste it into the Camera Hub app. However, currently there's only the ability to have one script at a time as far as I can see. Also, you can't work with the Camera Hub unless you're connected to the prompter. So like I had my MacBook disconnected and I was in another room. I was like, oh, let me put the script in the prompter and Camera Hub in the app, and you can't. Because if you launch Camera Hub and you're not connected, it just gives you a blank white window saying you need to connect the device. So you got to be connected before you can actually put your script in Camera Hub, which is kind of weird. All right, so once you're connected and once you do it, this is the other problem I ran into. So I had my whole script. I did have separate paragraphs for everything that I was going to consider to be blocks. But once you paste your script in, it pastes the whole thing into whichever block you select. There's no way to break it up after the fact instead of manually cutting and pasting and hitting the plus sign into a new block every single time. So at that point, don't even bother pasting the whole script in. Just go ahead and copy a paragraph, create a block, paste it, copy a paragraph, create a block, paste it. I do wish they would give you some ability to just either have a symbol you type that automatically denotes it's a block if you're doing it in another app, or let you break it up. Also, there was no way to rearrange blocks. You can't drag a block above another block or below it. Maybe you're changing your thought process and you want to say something sooner or later. There's no way to do that. The other thing is if you're going to do your script in the Camera Hub app, the Camera Hub app is a very tiny font. Even though you can make the prompter whatever size you want, color, font, all that, if you're going to write your script in the actual Camera Hub, you're probably not going to like it because unless you got great eyes and you want to look close, it's very tiny. No spell check, none of that stuff, no grammar check. So most people are probably going to do it outside of the Camera Hub app. Now, Camera Hub has the ability to control the brightness of the display and lower the opacity of the text mode so you can see through and see to your desktop or windows behind it, which can kind of be useful if you want to like put your notes on top of a meeting. You could do it that way. Or you just want to see your confidence monitor, your camera. If you're in a meeting or whatever, you want to see through your script, you could do that. This brings me to my next question I had. How am I supposed to advance the script since there's no included remote? Now, you can use your mouse. Since it's a Mac app, you can use your mouse. There's a play, a pause, a skip forward, a skip back, one block at a time button. But there's no remote, there's no wireless whatever, and I guess you don't need one since your keyboard and mouse are probably right in front of you. However, if someone else is controlling it, they would need to be able to do that on their Mac, and do all that. Now, if you have an Elgato Stream Deck, which I do, I have one at each desk, you can control Camera Hub by downloading the Camera Hub plugin from the Elgato Marketplace for free, and I did that and I set it up, but I opted for a hands-free option. I bought the Elgato pedals, the foot pedal. I'm actually pressing the foot pedal with my foot to start back up the script as I pause there to go off script. The Elgato foot pedal is a pedal with 3 pedals, like it's all one piece, but it's 3 pedals. So there's one big pedal in the middle. I assign play and pause to the big pedal. And then you have pedals on the left and right, and I assigned left to go back a block and forward to go forward a block. And by the way, I had to figure all this out on my own. The Elgato website was absolutely useless for this. Although they had plenty of FAQs and videos on how to use it as if it's not working, how to use it as a display, how to use it as a Twitch chat, they had absolutely nothing to show how to configure Display Link and Camera Hub for prompting. And I'm guessing which is why most people are going to buy the device in the first place. Elgato, if you're watching this, please add some documentation to your site on how people are supposed to use Camera Hub to work as a teleprompter on your great new product. Like you got the best hardware, best price, all of that. But your software, which works, needs improvement, and you need documentation for people that can't figure it out on their own or won't know to turn the thing off and back on again. And they shouldn't have to. So overall, and by the way, it does come with a pamphlet, a manual. Here it is. This is it, Prompter. And if you go through this manual, it's all about the hardware. It's all about setting it up for your camera and your lens and all that great stuff. Nothing for the Prompter software. It's all about the hardware. Once you get to the last page of the hardware, it gives you a, hey, go download the software page, and that's it. No instructions whatsoever. Overall, once you get past the initial setup hurdles, this is a game-changing device. I'll be using it for all my remote meetings, live streams, and tutorial recordings. And while I've got a prompter sitting right over there on a tripod, it sits there 90% of the time because I don't need prompting 90% of the time. I need a display all the time. So the fact that I can use this just for meetings and just for live stream chats is the game-changing feature for me. And while I don't usually write a script for tutorials and live streams, I do have bullet points and notes, and having them up right in front of me means less looking off to the side to look at a note and then back to the tutorial. In the future, what I'd like to see is a bigger version of this. Now, I'm happy with the size for me that it is. Since my camera is literally within arm's reach, like I can touch the camera, it's that close. For those that have their cameras across the room, however, the display might be too small to actually read. Even though you make the font size nice and big, you don't want one word per screen. You want to be able to look at least a couple sentences at a time. So the display might be too small to see and read comfortably, and especially if you're trying to read someone's meeting slides, you probably can't see them that far away. However, the intended market is likely for people that have their cameras close or they're using webcams like I do, because webcams you traditionally have closer to you than you do further away. By the way, because you couldn't tell, I use the Elgato Prompter for this review. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.